This is Cynthia Sue Larson with RealityShifters.com, and today I'm talking about 10 books that can save the world. First book on the list is The Conscious Universe by Dean Radin. And this is a book that you can give, in fact all of these books are gifts that you can give to people who seem to have everything, but you'd like to share with them ideas that can transform not just them, but the entire world. And this one is highly recommended because Dean Radin is the chief scientist at Institute of Noetic Sciences. Also, he has worked at Stanford Research Institute, a number of top 500 companies, and all of them have in common an interest in metaphysics and psi, which is mind-body interaction, basically. So this is a phenomenal book to bridge the gap between someone who isn't sure whether any of this phenomena is real, to give them some historical background and scientific background as to what's going on. Next on my list is what I consider to be a complete classic. It's called The Holographic Universe. This is by Michael Talbot, and he is a physicist. He's now passed away, but this book is absolutely a classic. It's the book that I find myself going back to again and again when I want to get a better sense of how the entire holographic model of quantum physics and reality affects all of us. So this is one of the best explorations of that, the way that everything is connected, and that starts on the quantum scale. He includes research from medicine, from biology, from Karl Pribram and David Bohm, and gets into what does it mean to be living in a holographic universe when we are connected to everything else. Next book is Biology of Belief. You notice a lot of science books here. I love science. So this one is by a biologist this time, Bruce Lipton, who has a PhD, and he really gets into the beginnings of what epigenetics is all about, the way that we can change how our biology is based on changing our beliefs. It sounds incredible, but once you read this book, you'll start to see what he means. The next book about changing the world, obviously I had to include this one. This is by Carolyn North with a foreword by Irvin Laszlo, and it's called Serious Fun. The subtitle is Ingenious Improvisations on Money, Food, Wastewater, and Home. This actually is a fun book. Sometimes when you think about saving the world, it gets heavy, kind of a feeling of, I don't think I can do this myself. But when you read Serious Fun, you'll feel inspired to do things that are very simple but can start making a huge difference, and the more of us do it, the better the whole world will be. Next book is The Bond. This is by Lynn McTaggart. She is a journalist, and she has a gift for exploring the science of various phenomena. In this case, the bonds of attachment that we all have to one another. How does that affect us? How can we work collaboratively instead of so competitively to improve not just the day-to-day lives that we have, but our relationships with others and our health even, which was one of the surprising findings that I think you'll really enjoy when you get into this book, which is called The Bond Connecting Through the Space Between Us. Next on my read list is Creating Miracles. I frequently reference this book because I consider it to be one of the best books of all time, although it's very little known. It's by Carolyn Miller, who has a PhD. The subtitle is Understanding the Experience of Divine Intervention. And if, like me, you're sometimes fascinated by why do some people experience remarkable reality shifts where, for instance, they're going off the edge of the road and fortunately a lake suddenly appears where there'd never been a lake before, so the car safely lands in a body of water. Or people are confronted with killers, murderers, just all kinds of horrible crime possible scenes, but somehow they manage to talk their way out of it, pray their way out of it, and change the world. Highly recommended book. Next, another super great book for relationships is Beyond Victim Consciousness. This is the book by Lynn Forrest that I think everybody who feels like there's too much drama in their lives, their relationships are tortured, why do people keep doing these things to me, why do I keep ending up in these patterns, you can get some answers about. It's a little different than you might think. And actually, the model included in this book is one that might be familiar to some people who've studied psychology, including something called transactional analysis and the victim triangle or the drama triangle, having to do with getting off that merry-go-round of victims, abusers, and rescuers. You really don't want to play any of those roles because they're pretty interchangeable. What you want to do is move to a position beyond all that, to recognize a greater reality and be more in the moment with your own actual feelings. And on that same train of thought, and moving right from there into something else, if that appeals to you, then you're going to love The Untethered Soul. This is a classic book by Michael Singer, and it's so phenomenal that I really don't even have words to describe it. Basically, you're just going to love it. It's the kind of book that you pick it up right from the start and you get drawn in by the beauty of the words. By the time you reach the end, you have been transformed. You're starting to see yourself as the person who's having experiences. And it's just amazing. Highly, highly recommend it. It's not a very thick book, as you can see, but it's totally life-changing. Another phenomenal book that I totally love, that I think you will too, is by Anita Moorjani. This one's pretty recent, came out just in the last year, Dying to Be Me. The subtitle tells you what it's about. My journey from cancer to near death to true healing. This is completely a miraculous story from a woman who was going down a tailspin. Her health was failing rapidly. Despite doing everything that she could, her best efforts, doctors' efforts, friends and family, so forth, things weren't going so well until she pretty much died. And that's where the story really takes off. It sounds a bit weird, but what happened is, in that place where she was surrounded by all possibility, she had a phenomenal decision and awareness of the opportunity to live her life without fear. And when she did that, she was able to come back to life, surprising, shocking her doctors, and pulling through it. I don't want to give everything away, but you'll love this book. And the 10th book on my list is One Mind by Dr. Larry Dossey. And it gets into the entire phenomenon of what is it that connects us all? If there is something that does that, how can we see signs of it? What would we be expecting to see? How would it show itself? How would it manifest? And again, reading One Mind is an experience. It just feels like a feast. If you like these kind of ideas, it's like the best possible feast of concepts and ideas imaginable. And ideas, after all, are the key to changing the world. And for those of you that like things that go to 11, I'm including my top book that I've written that I believe is powerful enough to help change the world. It's called Quantum Jumps, An Extraordinary Science of Happiness and Prosperity. And in this book, I've got dozens of real-life, laboratory-tested ways that you can take quantum jump starts. In other words, tiny little things you can do in just a moment to feel happier, smarter, more confident, have more willpower, improve your relationships, all sorts of things. I think you're going to love it, and it describes how there are a multitude of possibilities available to you in every moment, that we do live in a holographic multiverse. And what does that mean? How is it possible that we can simultaneously be feeling that we're existing in many possible realities? I think you'll love reading this book to find out. So until next time, this is Cynthia Sue Larson with realityshifters.com. Keep asking, how good can it get?